Uh, all right, this is season 1, episode 7, Left Behind. In three,
Hell yeah.
2, 1, play. Just you know what I mean by variety. You're just being stubborn.
You're allowed to think that.
It's gonna be funny because I was really negative on that episode, but I still give the show like a 7.5 out of 10 overall.
Yeah, that's fine. For me, it's more like an 8 or an 8.5. Not too far off.
Imagine if it had been a 10 out of 10 like the game.
Like I said, I love the game. It's my favorite game of all time.
It's up there.
And again, it's as much as I love the second game, I am really curious how the show version's gonna compare to it, especially since we are doing multiple seasons on
I
it.
don't
Like,
want to
is it
hear a
gonna feel too
fucking
stretched out?
thing when the second season comes out, and if there's no action, you are not going to defend. Oh, it's the talky bits that are important.
It depends on the episode. It depends on the context. There are long sections of that game without action.
Not really.
The whole birthday segment
Birthday.
that
segment.
ends with some, yeah, with
Oh, the Abby
dinosaurs in the
flashback.
museum. No, with Ellie, with the
Oh no,
museum.
the Ellie
That's a
flashback.
long section.
It's like 10 minutes.
Okay.
There's a difference
if you
between a 10-minute section with no action and a 40-minute episode of television with no action.
But I don't need this to be a nonstop action show. And like I said, if you're speed running that, those are long cutscenes. That's like 15 or 20 minutes if you're speed running it, and not if you're stopping to smell the roses.
Section has never taken me 20 minutes.
Those are long cutscenes. Anyway, here we're
Joel,
in the
don't
left
die.
behind portion. Joel, we got
We're
2 more
gonna
episodes.
cut the mall. I think. The
What,
main
in the
thing I
winter
remember from this
section?
is the flashbacks. Well, this is Left Behind. Left Behind cuts between the mall and the flashbacks.
Yeah.
I
But
think
we
we just
didn't
cut
need
the.
that.
Of course, we didn't.
No, because it's a show.
I mean, it's important world building. You love world building.
Yeah. We get everything we need with. This went from being like one of your favorite episodes to, oh, they cut the action.
No, I like
Fuck this
I like
episode.
the episode, but I can still acknowledge that they cut half of the thing that they're adapting.
That's fine.
I would not trust you with
They're
any of my work to be adapted.
John, it's an adaptation. I like the way they frame it as we open the episode, Fallout, Joel's dying, Ellie has to decide what to do. Does she leave him? Does she try to save him? What does she do? Then flashback. The episode is this flashback, giving us the context, giving us the backstory with Ellie and Riley. Then we'll end the episode with her saving Joel. Like, that's the important stuff.
I would not trust you with anything that I create to adapt. Good lord.
You should not. I'm not qualified.
Yeah, you'd cut out everything and say, "Oh, you didn't need it."
This is a series. How is that? And the game takes like 10 to 12 hours to play. It's not that much shorter. And I like this
flickering. I can't tell if that's
a
the
little.
lighting.
Yeah,
or...
it's yeah.
Okay.
So
now that we're out of
okay.
that room, I was like, "Oh God, don't tell me the TV's going out or something."
That would suck. Yeah, no, just the lights in the gym were flickering. But I do like this extra backstory we get for Ellie. This idea that she was almost on this path to becoming a Fedra agent and a Fedra agent and agent. And I like this guy too. This is just a one scene character, but somebody who again breaks that illusion of like all of Fedra being evil. Like now that this guy seems pretty reasonable, like he's doing his best. And the offer he makes her is very enticing. Of like, look, you could be a Fedra agent like me. Like you're strong, you can do it.
You're a loser, Ellie, like me.
And I like that what he's describing, what her life could be, is kind of where we saw Joel at the start of the show. Just the shit jobs he was doing, officially outside of the smuggling stuff.
Yeah.
It's just look, you follow the rules, you become an officer, you're gonna be great. It's gonna be fine.
I think we're fine.
Yeah, this might be this and the next one I think are Bella's best episodes. I think they're just exceptional here.
I did forget about this expansion on the school stuff. Um,
Mhm. Yeah,
no,
this stuff
like
we're just
this
told
is still
about in the game.
probably my favorite episode in the back half.
And I forget, does she have the Walkman in the first game? We draw a lot more attention to it in the second one.
I don't remember it being in the first one.
And I like just all the props here we get in our room, all the stuff from the game. Like the pun book, the comic book.
That's a good way to do those collectibles.
Mhm.
Why did we never make a Savage Starlight comic to like tie into this?
I don't know. Yeah, and I know you could like read like the summaries, right? And then in the second game they do the playing cards where you can like read the character descriptions and it's like, ooh, if you pay attention, like you can pick up on like what this character represents in the new. And I never read all that stuff.
You're fine with cutting out all the world building. You don't read any of it.
I read the Ish stuff. His story's great. Are you gonna swear on camera that you read every playing card description collectible that you picked up in The Last of Us 2? And then took notes?
In The Last of Us 2, I did read them once when I did my platinum run because I had to collect them.
And, I like that she has a Mortal Kombat 2 poster.
This actress that plays Riley, she's somebody.
Storm
Um,
Reed, she's really blown up the last few years.
yeah, I don't remember what I've seen her in other than
Did,
this.
did you ever see that movie? Which one was she in?
Oh,
Is it Missing?
she's Idris Elba's daughter in The Suicide Squad.
Oh yeah, she is. Yeah, she's in. Before this, she was in that Wrinkle in Time movie.
You
That
remember
almost killed
that?
her career. That
That
almost
movie
killed
was
her
a.
career.
I don't even remember like why was that such a disaster? Was it just that nobody
I
went to
don't.
see it?
Yeah, let's see. Ooh, God. Yeah, it cost $130 million and made $133 million.
Yeah.
I just heard like the tone and everything was just off, but I don't know. I never saw it. But so she was in that. She's in the Suicide Squad. Oh, she was also in the Invisible Man. Uh,
Yeah,
I like the movie. Yeah, and Missing, I've seen her in. She's the lead in that. Did you ever see that or Searching? Those were those found footage movies where like the whole thing takes place on like a web camera.
that explains
Um,
it. I try to avoid those.
Missing was really good. I've never seen Searching.
But most
Uh,
importantly, Robert, she was in The Nun 2,
oh, great.
and that was the last movie that she was in.
Well, they can't all be winners.
Oh, she's in Euphoria.
Oh yeah, she was in Euphoria. Yeah, I
I
think she was Zendaya's character's younger sister, which is weird to think about that, but that was like 6 years ago when that show started.
Yeah, and they're only on season 3.
I don't know why it takes so long.
I have
But
no
this
idea.
set,
I watched like half the pilot and I was like, this is the worst thing I've ever seen.
I didn't have that reaction.
I hated every single character.
But I love this
But
set. There's
she's
a lot of
perfect as
detail.
Riley.
Mhm.
Weirdly, she kind of looks like Game Riley.
Yeah, no, that they got pretty spot on with this casting. Of course, I think she's wearing a wig, and once you notice that, you can't unnotice it. It's fine.
Nah, she's got a headband on. It's fine.
That helps. But the camera does draw a lot of attention to that window. Again, I mentioned earlier that running motif of the window uh, through this season, which I like a lot. And again, I am impressed by how much they get to cover here back in Boston. And yeah, they only get one episode together, but their chemistry is just fantastic. And like I said, they really nailed the atmosphere of the game, just with the set decoration and the cinematography.
It never looks better. Give me that.
Hey, look, she has to shake the flashlight, just
Oh
like the
god,
game.
0 out of 10
Your
episode.
favorite feature.
I'm having PTSD. One of the unfortunate things about adapting this is because you're just stuck with an actress. This isn't a complaint, just a note. I can't tell how far back this takes place because she looks the same as she does in the current. Uh,
At least, so how far back are we? I think she. Well, we know how far. So this is 3 weeks before Joel meets Ellie. So I mean, this is all in the span of like
oh, wait a minute,
6 months.
you're right. Because
Yeah,
she says it in the game. She says she's bitten 3 weeks ago. For some
yeah.
reason, in my head, the flashbacks in Left Behind were like a year prior.
Hmm.
But you're right.
I like this. This is an addition I like. This body they find. Them finding the alcoholists from the game, but they added this little bit of them finding this corpse, and then his body's just flying through the floor. That's a good gag. Don't drink that. And again, Bella's comedic timing is a big reason why I think they work as Ellie. Like that's an important aspect to that character. You gotta nail is Ellie's just really funny.
Again.
But I do like that they gave this flashback the same framework that it has in the game with being in winter and then flashing back. That I like that we didn't move this earlier. In the show, we flow pretty naturally into it. In the game, as much as I like Left Behind, I still wish we had the option to play an extended version of it where that could all be put in the game. That would have been a nice addition for part one when the remake came out. Was to have Left Behind bundled with the main story and just one continuous gameplay experience. I think that could have been cool as an alternative. Would you like to play the game with that all bundled together, or do you find them being separate things, or would you
Love
like
it.
the option?
Love an option to do that.
Because on a first playthrough, I think the original version is preferable. Where one of the best bits in that game is when we think, "Oh God, did Jill die? What's going on?" Hard cut to winter, and then you get that great meme, infamous scene with the rabbit getting shot with the arrow. And Ellie, you have a lot of questions during that scene of is Joel alive? How much time has passed? What's going on? So that works great for the game, especially on a first playthrough. But on a second playthrough, it would be nice to have the Left Behind stuff all put in there. For me, anyway. That's a shot that looks right out of the game. Looking up with just the hole in the ground, you see the brick wall and all like the greenery and leaves, the vines coming through. Like that, this set's great. Just shaking the flashlight again.
Seizure.
And I think a lot of this was a real mall that I think was about to be demolished or something. That they then got to just shoot in and dress up. I shot of Ellie looking at everything. That's a green screen shot. I think it's pretty well integrated. But
So,
when
so
they're on
they
the
they
bottom,
had a mall, but they couldn't do the mall section of Left 4
two
Dead.
malls, yeah,
Oh, because you can
you
only
can only
make a mall
afford
look
one.
like one mall.
Yeah, but you need fake snow and all this stuff. I just don't. So in the game, we're cutting back and forth between Ellie in the winter, and she's going through this mall looking for supplies. And of course, being in a mall is reminding her of this event, and that's why we're cutting back and forth. It works great in the game. I'm just not missing it here. Like this is the stuff that's more important. It's
Well,
paced
so her
well. The
getting
chemistry
medicine
is
for Joel
great.
isn't important.
We get. It's at the end of the episode, John.
All the world
And
building
is going
isn't
to lead into the
important.
next episode. This bit's great with the escalator. Very relatable. I don't know if you had this. When you're a kid, an escalator is awesome, and then at some point in growing up, you find out that they're actually horrifying and can kill you, and then you're
So,
terrified of
funnily
them.
enough, because growing up where I was, we didn't have escalators, so I didn't get those till when I was an adult, and I was like, this is the worst thing I have ever had to experience in my life. The going up ones are fine. It's the going down. I feel like I'm falling.
For anyone watching, always check your shoelaces before going on an escalator.
And your pants.
And check everything.
I watched Final Destination.
Probably the best scene in that movie.
I think that's 4.
Yep. Oh, we got the Dawn of the Wolf poster. That's great. Yeah, and this is the stuff that I just find so fascinating about Ellie and these characters. People who grew up in the apocalypse, who just have like these context clues for what life is like and just how weird our current reality is. From their perspective. That's the stuff that makes these characters so interesting. And Bella does a really good job selling the insecurities and things
Remember
this
Gap?
character is suppressing. I do remember the gap.
For the record, this is how you do an episode fleshing out a side character while also developing your protagonists.
Yeah, this episode also does that. Like I said, this and 3 are good companion pieces for me. Like 3, you get a full life. You get a full romance. The tragedy of this episode is what could have been. These characters who grew up together, who are best friends, but don't until the very end
If
get to
only
express their
Joel and
full
Ellie were in
feelings
that
to each other.
episode.
They are in that episode. They're in a lot of that episode, actually.
5 minutes is not a lot.
They're in like 20 minutes of that episode. We just did a commentary on it. You want to go check?
They're not though. They're Joel's in more of it because he has that brief scene in the flashback.
Well, he has that flashback in the middle, but there's a lot of Joel and Ellie up front and a lot of Joel and Ellie at the end. We just watched the episode, John.
We did, and 90% of that episode is not Joel or Ellie.
That is
This
incorrect.
is how you do a flashback that builds up side characters while also remembering who the protagonists are.
It does remember the protagonists are. They book in the episode. But yeah, this episode's also great. And I think I do prefer this one. But it's called Variety. I like the variety. Again, their chemistry is just so good.
Yeah,
they get all these important bits.
Shocking what happens when you take a segment of the game and just adapt it, right?
Yeah, and by adapting it, they also cut the stuff in Winter in the Mall, which it didn't need, because this episode's great. It works in the game.
I don't disagree. It didn't need it. I still would have liked to seen it here, but
well, the way we frame it in this context is we start not just with Joel dying and her having to try to save him. It's in the show version, Joel tells her, "Leave me. I'm dying. Go back to Tommy." Like that, he tells her to go. And then she has that choice she has to make. Does she leave him or not? And then we cut to the flashback, and we're in the flashback episode. And then the end of this episode will pay off that opening of her choosing to stay with him, you know.
man, if only we had like the world building that you get in those.
This is world building. Like I said, I like the give and take. You can't put literally everything in the game in the show. That's what adaptation is.
But if it were up to you, we'd cut out like half the game.
They didn't though. They kept in most of it. They kept in the important stuff. I agree that I could have used more run-ins with infected in the back half. That I agree on.
You know how you fix that? You put the flash forwards back in. Would it have been tense and I don't know, horror to have Ellie have to try to survive out on her own, get medicine for Joel, and deal with the infected?
In this episode, we get everything we need. And then in the next episode, we're going to run into David, and that's going to be a problem. And that stuff's only going to be great. But in adapting it, there is world-building stuff that I love in the game, like the Ishmael stuff, like all these notes you find, like piecing together this whole story. We don't need all of that in the show. I like that that's something that works as just an Easter egg. You know, you get the reference, you get the location, but we don't need to dwell on it.
Reference. We don't do anything with the present small in this, which is it didn't happen.
Because the show doesn't need it. We get the important part of her finding a needle and thread at the end.
Well, thank God for that.
Because we get the important. This is the important stuff.
It's all important.
Also, we're talking about a segment that wasn't even in the game in the first place. This is DLC.
I understand that, but if you're adapting it, I'm going to hold you to the standard of the thing that you are adapting.
But you are a very literal person, and if you're making a book, a movie, you have to put every single line and every single bit of information from that book in the movie, and I don't think you do. In adapting it, you need to know when to cut stuff.
But I clearly am willing to compromise. I like the Harry Potter movies, and that's missing a fuck ton of information. In fact, sometimes to its detriment.
Mm-hmm.
But I see what we could have had. It would have been really cool to show Ellie as a survivor on her own. Something you haven't seen in the next episode. Yeah, she survives real well being held in a cage.
That's from the game.
I understand that. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying that the present stuff from Left Behind would have shown a different aspect, and it would have maybe, I don't know, helped build up to season 2 where she's gonna have to do all the action stuff.
No, but the show plays it smart, holding off of that until the David stuff. because that's when that killer in her gets to come out, and it's awesome. That's the thing with Ellie in the first game. Again, not saying it's bad, but when she becomes a killer, we don't really dwell on it. We don't explore it. It's
And
because it's a video game and you have to
what
shoot people.
did you play?
Until
He kills David and shuts
well,
down.
which happens in the show. Yeah, well, okay, I'll retract that a little. The first time she kills in the game is when she saves Joel and shoots that guy in the face, which we do in the show. So she has a moment there where she's like, "Oh God, I think I'm gonna be sick," and then after that, she's killing NPCs left and right and doing fine, which again works fine in the game, but in the show, when we build up to her, again, that's a great scene in both versions when she finally kills David. When you see that Hannibal really come out, like
Still
both
killing
versions totally
infected
earn
and
it.
being unaffected and still have that mean something.
But you also get that scene in episode 3 with like the infected that she finds who's trapped and she's like playing with it, she stabs it in the head. Like they do seed and set up like that
The
killer that's in her.
weirdest judge. Well, they did this thing 3 episodes ago, so they don't need to do it again now.
A game, the gameplay by its nature is repetitive, and that's fine. We don't need all of it put in the show. That's all I'm saying.
But you just agreed with me on the last episode that we could use some more infected. But every time I pitch a place where we can put more infected, you're like, "Oh no, we don't need that."
Yeah, but this episode I think is perfect, so we don't need it here. The last episode I thought could have been split into two, and where you could have had more run-ins with infected.
But I pitched a place for infected there too, and you're like, "Oh, we don't need that." That would be like if you took the Dawn of the Dead movie as it is and just cut out every action scene after the first one. But we don't need them. That's not what that movie's about.
I mean, there's long stretches of that movie without action.
But there's always another action beat to come back to. In this, you go, I'm pretty sure, from episode 6 through to 8 with little to no action sequences.
That's not true.
I like that we get a fighting game here.
Yeah, and I like that it's just Mortal Kombat 2 in the game. It's something made up
Yeah.
here because it's HBO, it's Warner Brothers, so it's Mortal Kombat. I think that's fine.
Well, and this is the part where I will agree with you. What they do in the game works better in the game because she's imagining it and you can just hear the sounds. Whereas with the show, you have to show what they're doing.
You have to see it. Yeah.
Although it is a little weird that these machines still work, but whatever.
Those things were built to blast. Some of them probably would.
I don't know about that. Arcade machines were a scam.
Although it is funny, that does remind me of a criticism I heard for people who didn't play the game, where we did set this up in episode 3, which is a scene from the game where Ellie finds the arcade machine that's broken, and it's like, this is so cool, I wish I could play it. And Joel's like, yeah, whatever, that's a bit from the game. And in the show, I remember when that episode aired, I saw a couple people complaining online, like, how does Ellie know about arcade games? Isn't this the apocalypse? That's a plot hole, that doesn't make sense. How would Ellie know about arcade games? It's like, what?
The cinema sense of
Oh yeah.
criticism. Oh my god, it's spooky.
It's getting creepy. The dolls are scary. The dolls are gonna come alive, John.
I hate this flickering light bullshit.
The set's great though. Like the makeup and the
I don't
attention
know.
to
I
details
can't
are
see
so
anything.
good.
The lights keep flickering.
No, I can see it fine.
I saw it a little bit better when the camera got close enough, but although I do have a question: where the fuck did they get quarters for this thing?
They talked over it. She smashed a thing open and a bunch dumped out.
Okay. Okay, yeah, I missed that.
And there's a lot of Ellie and Riley stuff in the game and a lot of optional stuff that you can miss. I think they pick the best ones for the show, like the brick throwing contest. We don't get in the show, and I think that's fine.
Bullshit.
Um, I like that we got the pictures, we got the arcade. We're gonna get the Halloween shop later. We get the pun book, volume 2. See, if you were adapting it, you would have had Ellie read every single pun and spent the next 5 minutes of the show on that scene
Because
from the
I
game.
don't need it one for one. I just don't see the need to cut out large sections that are important to the, say it with me, pacing of the story.
Yeah, and I just think it's better paced than you do. And this is a little different. I think this is interesting, Ellie. Uh, Making this more of like Riley's current hideout that the Fireflies ever posted at, and finding this realization that Ellie sees that Riley has these pipe bombs, and suddenly it kind of breaks down the myth of the Fireflies just a little bit, where it's like, oh, this isn't fun anymore. Like you were gonna bomb people, and then when she's applying, it's like, oh, that could be me, like because Ellie knows that being a Fedra soldier is on the table, and like, oh, I could get like blown up by somebody, and that could be by you, and that's fucked up. Like,
It's a little addition.
just the nuances of teenagers and becoming a freedom
You
fighter
know
and what does
why
that
that
mean
works?
exactly.
Because they don't substitute it for what actually happened. It's just an addition. We don't remove, we just add.
Yeah, we do both. And sometimes in adapting things, you need to remove stuff.
If it was up to you, they'd remove like 75% of the game. Just replace
That's
it with
not
the
true at
walking and
all.
talking parts.
No, I'd say at least 75% of the game is in the show. And then again, right out of the game, that confession that Riley's
That's what I'm
leaving
saying. They don't remove
and
that. They
break
just
her.
add the explosives as the kind of gets them talking.
Mm-hmm.
Shocking what happens when you leave stuff in from the game.
Yeah, and they left plenty in a lot of the games in the show. I'd argue this is still maybe the most faithful game adaptation ever produced. What do
That's
you currently
saying
say?
something.
Yeah. Would you say that Fallout's probably your current favorite video game adaptation? Because I still need to see that show.
Probably, like, this is really good, but Fallout has the advantage of it's just a story in that world. It's not adapting a game.
Mm-hmm.
And if you can believe it, that show has action sequences.
Yeah, so does this show. We've seen a bunch of them.
Really? I haven't seen one in the last like 3 hours.
We
That
got
was hyper.
tension.
Okay. I don't know what is up with you and tension. Tension is not action.
They can be the same.
We are on episode 7. The last action sequence was at the end of episode 5.
That's not true. We had a little one at the end of episode 6.
That okay, him falling on a piece of a baseball bat.
That's not what happened. They had a little fight, which I agree could have been longer. I don't need as much action in this as you do. The Last of Us, the gameplay is great and it's an interactive medium. You need that stuff, but it's
But
the
it's
talkie scenes are
also
why I love it.
the world. The
Yeah,
world
and you
is
get a lot of the world in
harsh
here.
and cruel, and there's
Hmm.
bandits and infected.
Yeah,
We scrap most of that
we kept a lot of it.
for
Again, I agree. We could
for
have had more
large
infected in
chunks
the
of
back
these
half.
this back half. It might as well not even be a zombie show. There's no fucking zombies.
But it's not about the zombies, it's about the people. And we've had a lot of them in this show. I am curious to see if season 2 does structure that stuff a little better, because like I said, the first half of the season
You
you
know
get a
what,
lot of that
Robert?
infected stuff.
You are right. Let's go back to the game and we'll take out all the infected. And
Well, you
It can just be Joel and Ellie on a road trip through America with no zombies, no bandits.
I mean,
There you go.
it's not great, but that's not what this is. We just saw bandits. They're gonna be in the next one. Now you're just being hyperbolic, and it's like I'm done. You're just being silly.
Like,
Like I said, we
imagine if we had all the Fedra posts that were overtaken, with because people were upset. Like, give me more about the downfall of this world. That's important stuff to how we get here.
yeah, we got a lot of that in the first half of the season. Like I said,
Yes, I
the
was
first
being
half of the
hyperbolic
show,
in that last sense.
like I said, the first half of of this show has a lot of those big infected set pieces. Like I said, I am curious if season 2 is going to be structured a
If
little
it's anything
better
like
in that.
this, then they'll
Because
fucking cut out the Rat King.
yeah, I don't know if they'll
Let me
keep the
guess,
Rat
we don't
King or
need
not.
that.
I mean, it's awesome in the game. I'd like to see it. That's also expensive.
Remember, this is also a horror show. It's not
Yeah,
just a drama.
yeah, it's all of it. And for me personally, I got enough of it. Like I got the drama, I got the horror, I got some laughs, I got some action. But just based on the trailers for season 2, I mean, it does look like we're getting a whole lot of infected.
I can't wait for the scene where Joel and Abby and Tommy have to work together to fend off the infected. But there's like 5 of them.
That's obviously not happening. Watch the trailers. They're going
I'm going.
bigger with that.
I'm going in blind. I'm just joking because it's ridiculous how we can cut out 1/3 of what makes The Last of Us special, which is the infected, and everybody's like, "Oh, it's fine. It's an adaptation. You don't need
Like
zombies in your zombie show."
we got a lot of infected in the first half of the show, man, and I agree. I could have used a couple more runs with them in the back half. I've never said I think this is a perfect show. I really like it, but I prefer the game.
Okay, but then every time I mention something from the game that you could put back in here to give it, some action or some zombies that you agree with me that we need, then you're like, "Oh, we
I don't
don't
need it
need
in this
that,"
episode. Yeah, I don't need it in
and you
this
didn't need
episode.
it in the last
It's
one
just
either. So where are we supposed to
I
put
didn't
it?
say that. I never said that. The last episode is the one I thought could have been split in twain.
Except when I pitched a way to get more zombies in there, you're like, "I don't need that."
No, what you said was you missed the bandits, and I didn't. I don't
And
need
then
the
I said
bandits in Jackson's stuff.
replace them with zombies. She runs off and
Sure.
gets surrounded by clickers.
I still don't need her running away from the community in the show. That it's paced fine. And
Is this the
this
song
scene
from the
right on.
DLC? I don't remember.
I'm pretty sure it's the same one. The masks are cool because those are
Those are
obviously
just from the game.
yeah, like they're created for the show and are so spot on. They just took the concept art and brought them to
Yeah.
life. Like that's cool. And yeah, like all this stuff is paced really well. This emotional climax with them. And again, it's the tragedy of like these are two best friends who haven't been fully open with each other and haven't had the courage to tell each other their full feelings, and just when they get to that point is when it's taken from them.
No, like for anybody watching, I do really like this episode. I think you could have done more. funny how much taller she is than Ellie.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a beautiful moment. Just them gling, just like it's this last little moment of peace. Now, this is the part of the episode where I'll meet you halfway, where I'm a little torn on it because I think it works. Like, I don't need the horde that's in the game, but I would have been fine with a few infected. I don't know if it needed to be just one. I still think the sequence works fine because what it does
Technically,
show
this is where
is,
I'm fine with it being one because that's at the end of the day. I think they only run in like one or two at a time.
yeah, well, it's you get the horde that's chasing them, but then by the end of that sequence, like it's really just a couple they're dealing with. But what this scene does establish is just how strong and dangerous these things are, and just how easy it is to get killed by them. Because they both
Yeah, it
get
only
bit.
took them 7 episodes.
But 2 episodes ago, Sam and Henry, all that forgot.
Well, you're the one that said that this is where where it's established.
Well, in the context of this being a flashback. Also, if I said established, I apologize. That was not a good word choice. But again, physically,
Okay,
she just totally.
admittedly, that was just me being a dick, but I knew what you meant.
And again, it shatters the illusion of like, yeah, this is obviously it's been clear in previous episodes, but this is not your zombie
Bella
fantasy wish
kills
fulfillment.
this scene.
These reactions are fantastic.
Quick, cut off your hand; it'll be fine.
Yeah. Is that a thing we've done in The Last of Us yet? Like, have we had a character missing a limb? It's like, yeah, I got bit, but amputated and I lived. I don't think we've seen that successfully done.
Which is funny because they use every other trope in the book.
Mhm.
So what was she just standing there for the last 30 minutes? That's another reason why the format in the game works is because then it doesn't look like she's just standing there awkwardly so that we can get this
That's
flashback.
that's not what's going on. You're looking at Sue literally. No, this is making her think of Riley. We, the audience, are. But in real life, when we flash back to things, it's not in chronological order. We understand that this is TV logic. And now we're back here. But
I didn't
again,
say she
her.
was literally standing there. I said that's how it
She
looks.
just did, and it's not. But her looting the house is enough. Searching the place for
You
something.
could then if you're not going to do the
We
mall, you
didn't
could
need
have
them
at
all.
least interspaced her looking for the house. Maybe something triggers another flashback.
Again, the structure in the game works. I think this version works. It's a wraparound. It's a bookend.
Okay, but just because something works doesn't mean that something can't be done better. Like that format works for a reason. You could have kept that, even if it's
Okay.
just her
Yeah,
searching the house.
it worked in the game, and I think the show. Again, I think this episode is fantastic. This is one of my favorites.
Game over, man. Game over.
Game over. But yeah, and she's remembering this moment where she could have left Riley, but instead chose to stay with her. And then, again, happens off screen, but just the horrible reality that these two characters both expected to turn. And then, of course, Ellie did it and had to put down her best friend. In both versions of the story, that is a thing that happened. We just don't see it. But yeah, it's really fucked up that the first person Ellie has to put down is Riley.
Yeah, which is why I don't know, I'm not really shocked that she doesn't have much of a reaction to killing other monsters. So you could have done more of that.
I wasn't talking about the monsters, and we've seen her kill a few infected in the show, but I was saying like when she's shooting bandits and stuff, like they're NPCs, like you're not thinking about it. It's the game isn't always dwelling on the violence as much as the second game is, which, as we talked about before, the season of television is very inspired by the second game and what's coming later.
Stuff is great. Did they win
Mhm.
any awards? Because I should have for this episode.
That's a good question. I know
I'm
this was up
sure. I'm
for
sure it did for episode 3.
this episode was nominated for some Emmys.
That's good. Thank God that she didn't have to leave the house to find medicine.
Well, she just found the needle and thread,
Thank God
which
that
is what
wound
she
didn't get
finds in the game.
infected.
You could say the same about the game.
In the game, she finds
No, this
like
thing's
a health kit
yeah, a
with
video
like
game health
alcohol
kit.
and shit. Okay, and you can't translate that into a medical kit in the show.
It's fine. The important part is that she sews up his wound. And again, I like that we linger on this scene. It's gross. The makeup's great.
You can't have it both ways. Either it follows video game logic or it follows movie logic.
Yeah, she gets lucky. Also, does the med kit have alcohol in the game? I don't remember. Yeah, I
Yeah,
just remember the needle and thread.
got like the antiseptic pads and shit.
And the music choice here is great. It really nails the vibe of that ending.
I'm glad there was a lot of tension in whether or not Joel's gonna live or die. That's good. It's good.
Yeah. If you haven't played the game and you're just watching the show, yeah, you don't know. A lot of
Okay,
people thought at the
but
end of the last
I'm
episode.
not
Like,
gonna.
also, this is a week-to-week show. Like, people thought in the last episode that Joel was dead. People had to sit with that for. You're not looking at it from the point of view of a TV audience who hasn't played
I'm
the
not
game.
because I don't care about them. I'm looking at it from my point of view.
So when you were playing Left Behind, you're like, oh man, I hope Joel lives. I don't know if Joel's gonna live.
Well, no, because
That DLC
I
played
played
after the main game.
Okay, but this isn't playing after the rest of the story. If you're gonna put
There's
it,
plenty of tension.
if you're going to put it in the middle of the story, then you could play with Harrison tension. Is he gonna live or die?
They
She's got
did.
to.
You're watching that whole episode thinking in the back of your head, like, is Joel gonna make it or not? You don't know.
Okay.
You don't. It's not until the end of the episode. Man, you are in a mood today.
It's annoying that every time I point out something that they could have done better, you're like, no, it's fine. It's perfect. Don't
I never
change
said it's
anything about this
perfect.
show.
That is never said that.
That was
That's
episode
one of
real
your
quick.
favorite episodes.
Hang on, shut up for a minute. For recording purposes, that is the end of our episode 7 commentary. We will be if you're watching after the fact, thanks so much. And we'll check out our episode 8 commentary.